Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We are all present and accounted for. Any additions, changes to the agenda? If not, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. Second.
It's been that way for just a little while here.
I'll make a motion to
approve. Let's approve it first.
I'll second.
Motion by Pat, seconded by Kurt. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. So, let's stand and face the flag. For those of you who are inclined to do so, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Rob, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, twice today. Thunderstorm.
Just a side note on that, I normally don't just interrupt, but since Ryan Foster is here, I want to thank you for kind of leading the way on that and having the student body lead our school board. I think that's pretty remarkable to say that a group of adults is following your lead, and I really commend you for getting that going and doing such a nice job of it every day, or every Monday.
No problem.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from the last two meetings, the 24th and March 10th. Anyone have anything to add? Any changes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Jerry to approve, seconded by Rob. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Next, under scheduled presenters, Dave Maroney, Director of the Economic Development and Planning for Cannon Falls City, is here to update us on the Hardwood Way intersection and construction across from the school. Dave?
And I thank you for coming because I've been getting lots of questions on this. There's going to be some big activity going on down here, and so I'm very thankful that you're here so that they can hear it firsthand instead of me explaining it after you've explained it to me.
Appreciate that.
Is there a way that we can maybe
You want to maybe
look
come this way?
around?
That'd be great. Yep.
Just passing out a copy of the plat, unless, and then Bob, our Mayor Robinson never adjourns our meetings as quickly as you did here, so I might pass on that hint to him.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth, and to the school board. What I'm handing out this evening is just a copy of the preliminary plat, the preliminary development plan that Glenn Mulvihill has submitted most recently to the Planning Commission, who held a public hearing, and they recommended conditional approval, and then it went on to the City Council last week, who also granted preliminary approval to the development. So I just want to kind of lay out kind of the parameters of this proposal generally to the board members. If you've got questions along the way, certainly feel free to ask them. The proposed development that Mr. Mulvihill has presented to the city for the entire 50-some acres is 100% single-family lots. Now, there's 65-foot frontage lots and there's 75-foot frontage lots scattered throughout the 121 lot proposed subdivision, but it's all basically single-family detached housing that's being proposed here. I've highlighted an area in yellow. There's 6 lots there that were served last year when the city extended utilities to the 10 existing homes to the west of the area in yellow. And we essentially approved last year the right of Mr. Mulvihill to, at his expense, put in services from the utilities that we were extending to serve those 10 units of existing development, to put services in there last year along with our construction in anticipation that he would follow through the planning process and ultimately receive approval from the city for the 6 lots. He doesn't have that approval yet, but the Planning Commission has recommended to the council that the 6 lots be approved, both for development as well as for rezoning. So the first phase of this 121 lot subdivision is those 6 lots, and those lots, once the council's finished their processing of the request, those 6 lots will be available for sale and development this year. So the first phase of this multi-phase development are those 6 lots that I've highlighted in yellow. The area that I've highlighted in blue, there is a proposed parkland dedication. In this case, it's about, let's call it 1.25 acres. Under our subdivision regulations, approximately 5 acres is a required dedication of public parkland within a development of this size. If the land isn't dedicated as per the ordinance, the developers do have the right to pay a cash in lieu of land dedication payment to the city. This particular issue will continue to be discussed and considered both by the Planning Commission and City Council because it's a Phase 2 or possibly even a Phase 3 consideration. But there will be some parkland dedicated in the overall Mulvihill development. A couple of the other players in this process include the state of Minnesota because of access onto Highway 19. We've engaged MnDOT to work through their review process with us. They're handling that as we speak. For Phase 1, there really won't be any changes from MnDOT. 72nd Avenue is there. It already accesses 19. That will continue to be there for the first phase of this development. In the future, there's a possibility that that street will be changed. The existing gravel street will be changed to a cul-de-sac so that you'll no longer be able to access going from south to north Highway 19 in the future. But if you look just to the east of that or to the right on the map, there would be a new access constructed to Highway 19, which would replace that. So that's an issue that could occur and could develop in the future with respect to an access change on 19. At the end of the day, it's not the Planning Commission, it's not the City Council, it's really the Highway Department that will make that final determination. The other player in this process, as you continue to move right or to the east, where Hardwood Way connects to Highway 19. You're probably familiar, you've seen other plans, I think, where County 25 Boulevard, that's currently under construction from the new interchange by the new hospital coming up to County 25, Township 25, and then coming north and to the east of that up to Highway 19, possibly as soon as 2016. There will be that County 24 Boulevard connection, which will end up being along the east edge of the Mulvihill property. Goodhue County's been communicating with Mr. Mulvihill on the right-of-way needs for that future extension, and I'm guessing that at some point in the not-too-distant future they'll find a way to agree on that. So until Goodhue County responds and until MnDOT responds, what we've done with the City Planning Commission is we've recommended approval of the 6 lots in yellow, but the balance of this development plan will continue to be considered in future weeks and maybe even months as we move forward with the Highway Department in Goodhue County. A couple of the issues yet unresolved are pedestrian ways through the development, sidewalks. There are sidewalks proposed on a number of the streets. Our ordinance requires sidewalks to be built on one side of every street. But along with that, obviously, and I've talked with Beth about this in the last couple of months, the Planning Commission, the City Council, and the school all have an interest in how this residential subdivision in the future is connected safely to the school properties themselves. I don't anticipate, from what I've heard from the Planning Commission so far and the City Council, that we're necessarily going to resolve that with respect to this Phase 1, these first 6 lots. But it is going to be an issue that we certainly welcome your input on as we move forward with Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4 of this development. But at this point, we haven't made a recommendation as a Planning Commission to the City Council, nor has the City Council made any kind of determination with how this development will provide safe access to the schools in the future as it moves forward with up to 121 lots of new residential development. So that's one question that we'll continue to work on as a city. In addition to that, connecting the road systems to the south and actually even to the west over to 71st Avenue, we're having some conversations with the developer and Planning Commission and ultimately the council on that issue as well. So there's a few things here yet to be decided. I think they're important issues, but they're not issues that are going to be resolved, nor do they need to be resolved right away with the first 6 lots highlighted in the yellow on the map. So we're proceeding, as I said, with Planning Commission public hearings, City Council determinations, at least on the first phase. This will come back to the Planning Commission at their meeting in April. It's possible that that could be recessed again until May, but I think in the next month or two we'll get a little bit firmer understanding about some of these other related issues. And as I said, there's plenty of time for the school district and the school board to provide whatever input you think would help us as we continue to look at this project, and feel free through Beth to pass that information on to me at your convenience. With that, I'll maybe just pause, and if there's questions that any of you have as board members, or Beth, if there's something else that you'd like me to speak about with regards to this.
I think if I don't bring up Mr. Bell's concern, I'll be in trouble with my elementary principal. you and I have spoken about it.
Yep.
You know, at some point, we're going to look at Hardwood Way and bringing our buses in at the back side of the
Yep.
elementary. It's just a better flow. It's an emergency exit
Right.
kind of thing, working with the local police department. You know, we shouldn't have just one exit from an elementary school. We should actually have two. So we've been in contact about that, and I think I just verbally want to say that there's been a lot of conversation about routing our buses through the back, routing our parents through the front, to kind of ease some of that congestion that we talk about every fall with the elementary, and to just provide some of the safety factors that go along with that. So I'll continue working with Dave on that. It's obviously a work in progress, and we'll continue to look at that and make sure that that intersection, if anything, has the access lane, just like we do in front of the high school, so that cars can pass if needed,
Right.
or whatever that'll entail. But we'll be in constant communication about that. That's down the road too. So.
And I've seen the preliminary plans by Goodhue County, working with Greg Isaacson, and he's familiar with this issue as well. So the preliminary plans that I've seen, that there will be full turn lanes, bypass lanes at the intersection of 19 and Hardwood. And again, what Goodhue County will be working with is not just the financing of that improvement, because that's not a local street improvement, that's a Goodhue County, State of Minnesota project. That Goodhue County will continue to work with the Highway Department to permit that significant change at that intersection. There won't be any signalization, at least in terms of what we're hearing from MnDOT anytime in the near future. But there will be full movements going north, south, east, and west at that intersection. So it will be a pretty significant intersection. And I think, Beth, as we've talked, I think to continue to talk with Greg Isaacson at Goodhue County, that's going to be the critical contact to make sure that your voice is heard as they continue to do their planning.
Is there any possibility with this being also a state project that there be state funding that would benefit the district for development of the access?
Greg thought, as things develop, we'll know more. He's, of course, not going to say that. I don't think that would be wise on his part. But I think that, obviously, with the intersection, it's going to be a savings for the school district if we wanted to build a road in the back or something like that.
Right.
Is there any projected timetable they're looking to really develop the whole plat?
We talked in their preliminary submittal. They talked about phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1, 6 lots, the balance of 121 in phase 2. As we spoke with them at the Planning Commission public hearing, we asked that same question, and what they're going to be doing is paring back the second phase into much smaller units. I think in part, the market will drive part of that, but I know so far, even with the 6 lots, that Mr. Mulvihill has indicated to me that he's had some pretty good interest. And I'm guessing that because the sewer and water basically have been installed in 72nd now, my guess is that we're probably, in terms of economic feasibility of the future extension of utilities, that we're probably into kind of this area for a phase 2. And then how far east he goes, I think, again, will be a function of market demand and the cost of extending utilities and roads, to the east. But my guess is, I wouldn't personally be surprised to see, something occur on a phase 2 even as soon as next year. I think these are going to be pretty desirable lots in a pretty good location. I think Rob, would certainly be aware of that too. And I just think, given some of the other residential developments that started and stopped, I think this one's got a real opportunity to start and be completed over time.
And I know it's very preliminary. I know we're talking about access to the school from over here with 121 homes and lots of kids and a lot of them. I know you're saying no signal over here, but
Right.
what are the thoughts of getting the kids across that highway then? So if they want to walk across,
Yeah, I mean, we've had preliminary conversations with the Planning Commission and Mr. Mulvihill about underpass, overpass, at-grade crossing. That issue's not resolved. I think there's been a variety of interest and concerns with any one of those options, at grade, going over, or going under. So I think when we work through the pedestrian system on the entire plat, whether we're going to try to come back over to 71st through these cul-de-sacs on the west end, those cul-de-sacs may or may not be retained. That's still an issue to be looked at. We've looked at the Almond Street crossing now on 19 as we go even further, to the west, which is off of this page, and how we get there with trails and sidewalks, and then how do we get across. There's some questions, both in terms of best location, most feasible location, the cost implications, who pays, where do we want to lead those kids to in terms of your facilities here. So I think there's still some unanswered questions with that.
You'd think underpass would be almost the easiest.
Well, I'm looking at the storm pond here. How deep is that projected to be?
That's down. I mean, it's a fairly significant pond and it's deep.
Which kind of worries me about kids crossing over in that area. You got a pond that, let's say it's 20, 25 feet deep, and that's where the kids are going to be crossing over. So an underpass, I like the idea, but I'm wondering, with all that water going into that spot, we're going to cause possible issues.
Well, and just remember, there's regulations, that'll still be a highway, so ultimately we have to pick the kids up.
Well, I know ultimately,
Even
but
though
if
they're
they-
across the street, we have to pick
if
them up.
they choose and want to,
Sure.
we give them at least a safe passage
Right.
if they chose to.
Right. And we've spoken with MnDOT at our meetings too, with the Safe Routes to School program and some other things about this, because they're pretty familiar with this, and they too recognize that, 6 lots on 121 units doesn't necessarily trigger, it's not the triggering point to do this, but they understand it's a concern for us and for the school and for them, and I think they're willing to cooperate with us. And what happens at Hardwood has some impact, what happens in terms of the next phases of this development has some impact, and whether or not we can go west and come back, 71st, and then if we do it, we got to go back to the west. I mean, I think the issues over there, and I'm not sure what the solution's going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Dave, when they start looking at homes, do they factor in 2 cars per home, and just looking at what type of traffic that would be coming in and out of there when buses are coming, in early morning and everyone's going to work? Is that a factor of how much congestion is going to be in this area in front of the school?
It could be, and particularly as we move closer to build out. That's where it's going to become more of an issue. Now, in our conversations with MnDOT at this point, 121, even in District 6, 121 lots is not a significant residential development, but it is going to generate on average, maybe up to 10 trips a day per unit. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot more traffic moving in and out of here, and that's why when it comes to access onto 19, when MnDOT hasn't approved this yet, but I think they're going to grant access onto 19 in exchange for closing the one that's there now. Whether it's exactly in that location or not, because we've got some topography out there, we've got some speed issues out there, we've got some major changes on Hardwood Lane and that I mean, the whole traffic patterns out there are going to change with or without this project because of what's going to happen at Hardwood. So we want to factor that in, but again, having one way in and out, at least off of 19, is not the best solution. This will outlet again out on Hardwood. Hardwood will actually outlet onto probably arguably a better and safer location of getting on 19. It'll be more controlled than this will, and it'll be a little bit further east of the school.
I think it out of Hardwood wouldn't be that either. They can shoot out Hardwood and come south. But
Yeah.
they're working on that way, get on the highway.
Yeah.
So this will be rezoned R2.
Yes.
That means there's a potential for more than single-family homes.
Well, they're proposing, the R2 district zone would allow multifamily with a special permit or twin homes, but they're proposing all single-family detached housing. So if we approve this plat as it's shown here, there wouldn't be an allowance for twin homes in this development.
Just so I have a kind of a relevant picture in my head, the development they put out behind the interstate, how many dwellings is out in that area? Any idea?
Pine Street?
Yeah, that
Those are
precedes, there's twin
townhomes,
homes,
though.
yeah, and
Yeah,
there's
twins.
twins and towns out there too. I don't have an exact number, but I mean, there's,
Is there close to 100?
No.
20 or 30.
Oh, that's all
Oh,
there is
more
out
than
there.
that.
yeah, if you go through the whole single-family area too,
Oh,
depending
yeah,
on how
there's
far,
two.
how far north and south you're going west, yeah, I mean,
Not
it's,
even that many, I wouldn't think there's more than 50 out there. But pine?
yeah, but you're talking about more than that, you're talking about all the traffic coming back onto 24, yeah, so I mean, it's not just the twin homes that, or the townhomes he's asking about, so. Yeah, I don't think 100's unreasonable, I mean, they're not all coming back there because some of them are going back to the north.
Yep,
but,
yep.
yeah. So, I mean, it is a decent-sized development
Right.
for our standards here in Cannon Falls.
Sure.
But in terms of traffic generation, what MnDOT looks for, it's not a huge development in terms of impact.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting how Highway 19 traffic itself may increase without this development itself as we go along.
And you're right, too. I mean, with the whole bypass on the 24 Boulevard getting back down to the interchange, I mean, I would not have guessed that Goodhue County would have come back this soon and said that the third leg, the final leg from 25 up to 19 would be as soon as what they've got planned for. I never would have guessed that. Going only up to 25 really doesn't do much in terms of changing traffic patterns on 19 because you can't get south until this connection is made. to 25,
So-
and then back down.
25 to 19, is that gonna be the preferred truck route then?
Yeah,
So they're gonna go right by these houses on the east side?
yeah, yeah.
Well, and several of the superintendents met with the demographers that are kind of doing all of this with the Destination Medical Center. And, you know, Cannon Falls is expected to really start, you know, in the next 5 years, really have an impact on housing. The new Mayo Center will have a lot to do with that here too, so people need to be ready for it.
It's
If
been
it
the
comes.
conversation for 25
You're right.
years. so-
10 years ago, we were projecting to make a city of Goodhue County.
Right.
Yeah, I remember Wendell wanted that between 19 and 25 to be built up. A bypass around Cannon Falls, it's like, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was meant to just keep us abreast of what's going on.
Right.
Okay.
And like I say, if you've got any input that you'd like to provide to me, either individually or as a group, as a board, you know where to find me and where to find Beth. And like I say, we still have plenty of process here to move forward with the development of this size for us.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I owe you lunch.
No problem. Thank you.
Who buys this lunch?
Bus drivers get donuts.
Moving on, finance report, attachment B.
First page on there is just cash flow worksheet.
Who's this guy?
Yeah, I know. Couple months off. So I had a couple of different reports given to you the last couple of months, and kind of back to what I've given you. If there's changes that you like to see different, make sure you talk to me and let me know. But this is more of kind of consistent with what I've done. So kind of back to the old norm, I guess. The top is your checking account balances in the two accounts, a little over $2 million in cash, and then there's really not a whole lot of things that kind of stick out as odd as we go through. You get your ideas payments, your payroll, and whatnot. Take it down to the mid-end of May, and we'll get to our first half of the county tax payments. I have the estimate in there about $700,000. We also have set up with Invenergy, we'll receive $210,000 payment as we do each year through an agreement we have with them for 20 years from the original date of that project. So that'll come in at the end of May as well. Next few pages are just going to be kind of a summary of and a detail of activity for the last month that's been reconciled. So the first page you'll see the cash activity for February 2014 versus February 2013. We are doing better than general fund and cash, and as we've seen through the last couple of years, not only have the cash flow payments gone back to 90-10 towards from the state, but also some of that cash given back as the state's done a bit better with their budgeting and forecasting. So general fund, you're about $600,000 ahead of where we were at this point last year, and again, not having to do any aid anticipation borrowing, which is a benefit to the district. Although we can't earn a lot of interest on our funds, we're not having to pay any interest on the borrowing. Food service, about roughly where we're at this point last year. Again, the food service does well. Community ed, again, doing well, a positive balance. You see a negative balance in the debt service and corresponding pretty high balance in the OPEB debt service. And what that is a payment that I quoted to the wrong code. I'll go in and journal entry that, and when you see this report next month, that will be corrected. It's just a transfer of funds. Both payments get paid out at the same time to the same vendor. It was just a matter of a number being hit. So that get recoded and adjusted. Next couple pages then are going to be the detail. If you want to see what went out for payments for each week or what payroll was sort of like, you'll see that the receipts for general fund about $916,000 in 14 versus $860,000 in 2013, and that's just again a little bit more from the state being directed towards education, as well as fully to the 90-10 funding from the state of Minnesota. And then what you're going to see with the other funds, there's generally going to be a timing issue of when receipts are put into the system or when they are directed from the state. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot of things that stick out. If you do have any questions on that in the detail, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer what you have.
Anyone?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by Kurt. Anything else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Josh. Under the consent agenda, All of these are considered routine items, and we can enact them in one motion unless you have a reason to pull any of them out, and we will do that and deal with them individually. We have a chance to review those attachments, C, D, and E. Not too much on B, I see.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Kurt, seconded by Jerry. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is carried. Approval of the expenditures, attachment F.
Again, this is kind of going back to the old way, the way it done. So again, if it's something that you liked in the previous 2 months, make sure you let me know. But I can have to have with the majority of these, as I was here to write most of the, or majority of these checks anyway.
I have a question on 41716.
Zippies?
Yes.
Yep.
How are we sitting there contractually wise? Are we still within their?
We don't pay for any of the extra stuff until after we get a cleanup bill. So this is just one of the 5 payments that we pay normally during the snow season. So I won't be able to tell you until we get the final bill from them. I'm not sure exactly aware of how many times they were called extra for out of contract services, but if it's something you want me to look into, I can give Zippy a call and see where we're at.
Or have last year?
But we had snow in May last year too, so
But, yeah,
to the better.
Better.
but we don't get the bill until the end of the season, right? For the extra, we're just doing our
We
5
had,
monthlies.
it's the way it's always been.
Right. So we won't know until after we pay
Well, what I
these
mean is
5.
we're ahead in the sense that Dave hasn't had to call them for a million small snow.
Okay.
You know, we've had big snowfalls. We've got our money's worth when you get 5 inches.
Well,
Do they have hauling out?
What's it?
Do they haul in the snow?
No,
away
we've been
now?
pushing it back.
Nothing pushing it back.
but he sent it to me.
I told him I was good. I'm good right now.
I went to 41664. We bought a van for 20,000.
That was the van you approved, yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by Pat. Further discussion, questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Consideration to approve the activities handbook for the upcoming school year. Jake?
Yeah, I don't know if you got a chance to take a look at it or not, but just a couple changes. On pages 2, 4, and 8, we kind of eliminated a couple things. Elementary sports, we really don't oversee any elementary sports. We haven't. You know, we've got a youth athletic association. We've got parents leading teams, so we really haven't been overseeing those teams. I did strike it out, but I did meet with coaches last week, recommending to them that they do oversee some of those teams the best they can because there are issues that come up. So they were in agreement with that, so they'll try to oversee to make sure that playing time is right and they're teaching the right things. But like I said, I think this was in here. One of the coaches said it was in here because we used to actually have a salary schedule for elementary coaches too, which we haven't paid an elementary coach as long as I've been here. So a couple other things. Added a playing time issue on junior high sports, just stating that each participant should receive playing time, provided that team and school rules have been followed. Playing time will not necessarily be equal, though. Then a couple pages later, again, elementary coaches, we kind of struck that out since we don't oversee any of that. And then I think on page 8, we had one other change. All fundraisers. The way it's written in there, it says that no fundraisers can be, not more than one fundraiser can be ran at a time. Our list of fundraisers is big, and it comes up in the fall. Lots of people are running fundraisers at the same time, too. It's just a rule that hasn't been followed. I don't think we can follow it, to be honest with you. So struck it out just to kind of make it up to date a little bit. Other than that, I don't think there's any changes.
Question is just a technical one. Can we move junior high at middle school in, or does that matter? Should we update what we have? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, we could do it. Technically, it's junior, I guess if you prefer to have middle school, since we do allow some 6th graders, I don't know.
I don't know. I was just wondering about that, how that differentiates.
I guess we call it a junior high schedule, but we can do it however you want.
How is that, that highlight under junior high playing time? How has that changed? Was this just-
I just put it in there just to
so we do kind of have a stance on it. It's the way that all coaches do say playing time. Everybody will play, providing that you're following rules and showing up to practice, and it's just not written anywhere. So it'd be nice to say that at least it's.
It's a hard rule to follow because you can't distinctly say each person's going to get 2 halves or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, that's why it says
It
not.
does say it won't necessarily be equal.
They just, yeah.
I did put that in there.
It's
I
probably
thought there was a point in time here about 4 or 5 years ago where the word quality was in there. So that I could have swore that we had, each participant will receive quality playing time, but will not be equal.
Yeah.
So you're reaching into that 1 minute left in the game, and that's the first entry that a kid
That's what
gets in.
that's actually the situation that spurred us to put that in there before, because we had some situations where in very lopsided football games or basketball games, kids were being pulled off the bench with a minute left, and that was deemed their playing time. So, I mean, I'm just playing, I'm just throwing it out there. I thought at one point in time we did have the term quality in there, but still,
Maybe
tough.
Yeah, they define quality.
well, yeah,
Yeah,
again,
it's hard to measure.
it is.
When you meet with coaches, do you tell them the wishes of the district when it comes to playing time? Do you make a
You know, I
point?
talk to coaches enough, and the head coaches know, they're all on the same page, so they relay that message to their junior high coaches. I know Josh does, coaching for him, and other coaches too, Coach Lindo, I know they do. That's the message they tell their junior high coaches. If everybody will play, playing time won't necessarily be equal. So,
Is there a certain amount that they should at least be able to play? At 10% versus 30% versus 50%. I'm just saying if someone's out there and they're playing the game and at this level of play, 6th grade through 8th grade, is there a certain amount where we say, well, we want you to at least play 30% of your time out in competitive sports at that age?
it's probably hard to measure that with some teams
Right.
have 20 kids, some have 11 kids, some have,
Yeah.
so that would be
Okay.
hard to.
Yeah.
And the message to junior high coaches is that this is not about winning, this is about developing skills and developing teamwork. So, I think that our middle school, junior high coaches have kind of taken that to heart. It may not be equal playing time, but I think that they're getting, they are getting that quality time in. For example, in volleyball, it's you may have one team that starts, but then the rest of the bench is getting into another game too. So, and again, that's the message that our varsity coaches are giving their junior high coaches, and I know that that's something that Jake is telling those coaches too. So.
And it hasn't been an issue, so it's not like we're putting it in here because it's been an issue. I just figured we could put it in there to show what our message is.
The only thing I guess I'd look at maybe not percentages, but is it one game per season becomes the quality time, or should there be a per game type of situation for over a period of time? You know what I mean? So it's not you get quality time once a season, because it doesn't really outline anything. And I know what you're saying with the percentages, but if you try and go to every game, or you know what I mean, every week, the kids are going to get a chance to play something, versus I just haven't had an opportunity yet. We're in the second half of the season, and I still haven't had any ability to give them that quality time. So when the season's lost, then they'll get that quality time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That'd be, I guess, the only thing I would look at to possibly try and
I think it,
quantify it better.
I think it means per game. That's the way
Okay.
they'll receive playing time each game as long as the rules have been followed. I mean, I could put that part in there if you'd like.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, that's something I'm looking at, is just
Yeah.
to make it a little bit
Yeah.
more specific, but not to percentage of time.
Yeah. I know lots of coaches, I did the same thing. When you've got a game, basketball game, you might throw lines out there like hockey. You have a team of 5 guys, go, 5 guys go. So it is equal that way. So.
Yeah, 'cause I think it's pretty critical. I think this is one of those topics that somewhat needs to be addressed right now, because I hear it all the time. I hear it about kids not playing, and I don't blame anybody for it. It's just that's the way sports are. It's a competitive thing out there now, but it is an issue out there. There's parents who they pay their fees in that 6th through 8th grade. It's about developing kids, and is that only in practice, or do you develop them in the actual game, in the competition itself too? Total different level of play. So my hat's off to you. It's a tough thing to work with, and but it's very real, and I think everybody and there's parents out there that deal with it every day, wondering why their kids aren't playing, and how do we address that and be fair if that's even possible.
It's actually a sign of the times. It doesn't get any better with that involvement, and it's hard for us here to manage what goes on, and it's really, I hate to say it's not our job, but if all of a sudden we start talking about percentages and halves and stuff, we get ourselves into a real bind. Part of the problem is, I think, that somewhere during the elementary school years, there's a turnoff when they get to junior high, and it's apparent with our numbers. We expect them to get lower because we have lower amount of students, but sometimes it's chronically bad for us, and I don't know what the shut-off is or why it occurs, but it's tough to strike this elementary stuff because really it comes under the heading just underneath philosophy, and we like our people, even if they're not paid for by the district, to have a certain philosophy that carries over into the junior high, and to date it's been all over the board as far as it depends on what coach is coaching what area.
Can I piggyback on that, Bob, and just ask you, Jake, as to, 8th grade is different, I think, than even 6th grade. Do we be a little bit more, because I think it's a district philosophy too, as to what we think our kids should be and where they should be at a certain time with sports, but is 6th grade different than 8th grade where, do you let them trying to come in their own in 6th grade, and it's like, there'll become a point where kids just say, hey, this isn't for me, or they're not cut out to be in that
Remember, in
position.
6th grade, they can't play a team sport. It's only individual sports.
Only individual sports?
So you're talking 7th and 8th grade.
Okay, so 7th and 8th, okay, I was thinking
Just to
6th
clarify.
grade. Yeah,
Yep.
that means a lot
Yep.
there too, so.
Yeah,
okay.
we don't allow
And
it.
to be honest with you, if we want to follow what a lot of other districts are doing that are successful as their kids get older,
Yeah.
they're keeping their youth together, and they're
Yeah.
playing the youth, and they don't care if they win or lose. Look at the Castle programs. We're always in a running, in the early age, but they don't care if they win or lose.
So what are you saying then?
I'm
Jerry?
saying at the young elementary or the junior high age even, kids should get almost as equal playing time as possible.
And just to clarify, that really is what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
And I don't think what we're saying, and I'm not saying that, the current staff, I think, are coaching is great. But I think it's time to put it in. It doesn't affect anything today, but as we get new coaches and they already see this and understand, if they have a different philosophy, this is the district philosophy, the coach is already doing this, we're just kind of reiterating it here. That to me is really what we're doing, not making a change, but just reinforcing what's already been out there and putting it right, like you said.
Well, maybe sometime you can just throw that out in your AD meetings. It's just, I think everybody's on the same page with schools, but if we're playing a school that adheres to a different philosophy and all of a sudden our kids get beat 69-12, we're not going to have teams very long, and that's just the sad reality. So if we could get together on it, but I think we're stepping away quite a bit here, so let's jump back into that activities handbook. I would look for a motion to approve as recommended.
I'm not a motion to accept.
Motion by Rob, second by Kurt. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Consideration to post and hire a secondary social studies teacher for 14-15. Beth?
this just follows what you did last month. We accepted Mr. Meyer's retirement, and we congratulated him. Now we need to fill his position due to registration.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Pat, seconded by Brenda.
Good job, Brenda.
Gotta get right in there. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is carried. Item E, consideration to approve an extended medical leave.
We have an employee that has been on leave for a very long time. She has had many surgeries. She has no intent to come back and work for the district. Yes?
What's a very long time mean?
2 years now, 2+ years. We ran into this in the bus garage where people just kept taking medical extension leaves. There was some confusion when she applied for this leave again that she could not get the medical insurance through the district. She can purchase the insurance through us. Lori has been working with her on that. My recommendation on this is we have to have a precedent. If the employee is not coming back to work and there's no, soon, I use Josh since he's in the room and he won't care, I use him for an example. A medical leave was appropriate in that situation, or someone needs some time, or even a year off, to kind of recoup and stuff. This situation has really become one where there's no intent to come back, and we don't ever re-employ someone. We're currently, this person's been working as a sub. Subs don't get any of the benefits. Subs don't get any of the perks that come along with a full-time position. My recommendation, you can do it either way, but my recommendation would be to deny this medical leave.
Have we covered all our obligations? I'm not going to
Yes.
assume we have.
Absolutely. Yep.
I agree with Beth. I've got just a little bit of background on it, and I just don't see the positives to it as far as the district's concerned. I think we've had 2 years where we haven't had benefit of this person, and it doesn't appear like things are going to change. So it may sound harsh, but I think it's real.
So then we have to amend this to consider to disapprove.
No, you
Or
can
we
just
can
all
vote it
deny
down.
it. It's however you want to vote.
I'll make the motion.
They'll second.
There's been a motion by Kurt, seconded by Jerry, to approve the medical leave. I guess that's the extended medical leave. All in favor of the approval, say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
The medical leave is denied on a 6-0 vote. Item F, consideration to approve the shared teaching position for Lori Jackson and Sue Samuelson for upcoming year.
This is standard procedure. We have to do this. It was back when I was principal. Teachers had shared. Mr. Bell we've asked for his guidance on this. He agrees it's good for kids. It's good for both of these teachers. My own children have had both of these teachers, and it works out well. So my recommendation would be to allow them to job share.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Brenda, seconded by Rob. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Item G, consideration to approve the job description for the Director of Operations and Maintenance. That is attachment G.
Please turn to page 16. I've just got a couple changes. Lori was leaving for a trip, so she printed this somewhat early. Rob and Jerry are the representatives. They're aware of these changes as well. If you go down 5 lines, it'll say a minimum of 5 years experience in building trades and occupations. Please cross that out. And then turn to number 21 on the list of duties. We'll leave it to say any other duties assigned by the superintendent. Please cross off the remainder. I don't think you guys want to be giving directions to our Director of Operations.
I don't think you want us to.
Yeah. We'll leave it as
Who's
superintendent,
at first cross?
because that's impossible to find.
Just looking for a number. not a-
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yep.
5th line down. And then go to the bottom of the page on 17. Number 1 is fine, number 2 is fine. Number 3, we're going to remove because Mark Walter holds that license for us. Number 4, we're going to remove because Amanda Thompson holds that license for us. Number 5, you'll remove because I prefer to have IEA do that. So does Dave. And number 6, due to very strict regulations, we'll have Canon Pest Control. They do all the certifying for us on that. So 3, 4, 5, and 6 will be removed.
So Beth, what happens, say a teacher leaves that took on that role? We just,
It'll be my job to make sure someone is certified in that.
okay.
That wouldn't be the Director of Operations. That would be, unfortunately, my position to figure out. I'll just give it to Tim or Derek, so it doesn't matter.
This is a new position?
No, this is actually Dave's position. The facilities committee has done a lot of meeting, and I think to help Dave and the facilities in general, we wanted a description to match the actual duties. He had a job description that's from probably 1962. I don't know. I'm kidding, but 73. Okay, I'm sorry. And it just didn't match the demands of today, and so we just thought that this is a good way to do it. But all job descriptions need to be approved by the board.
And you guys have reviewed this being on facilities, and you're endorsing it?
We are correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, look for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Kurt, second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Rob. Other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Nice job here, guys. You put in a lot of time on this. Item H, discussion item, contract with Coca-Cola.
I think Jake and I just want you to know and be aware of the fact that we're looking at switching from Coke to Pepsi. We don't have a lot to give you tonight. We don't have a ton of information, but I really want to keep you abreast of that. Coke is giving us very little. Yes, we've got beautiful scoreboards with Coke on them and things like that, but Pepsi is running some pretty strong. The people I've talked to are willing to really get into the schools and give us some options with that. So not a huge discussion item tonight, but I didn't want you to be blindsided by it. Obviously, we're always looking for revenue, and there's not a lot of difference. Some people disagree with that difference in product, but our concession stand. We're not going to argue
Maybe they'll
Coke
provide
Pepsi. We're
Pepsi
going
at
to
the board
argue
meetings.
revenue for the school district. So, with that said, Jake and I are both working on it. Most of the schools in the HVL are looking at taking Pepsi's offer. They've got some pretty strong things on the table. So, it's kind of a sign of the times, too, whoever wants to snag those contracts. It's just like anything else. If we co-op our food or anything else, why wouldn't we at least look at it? The only thing Jake and I both agree on is no long-term contracts. I don't want to be stuck in anything, that goes more than 6-10 years. Anything that, well, that's a short
How long are these
contract.
contracts?
Pepsi, the way I was like, was 10. 10. But that's doable in contract years. I mean, that's a short amount of time. So, not a lot on it. I just really, before there's any huge resistance, Jake and I will stop working on this.
How about times, you're right though, times really have changed. So there was an individual that owned the Coke and Growing, he did a ton for our district.
Done a ton.
Ton.
Yeah.
And I have contacted Coke and said, how can we work together? What can we do? I'm certainly appreciative of the past 25 years, but the past 7, there's been nothing. Even kind of matching funds just haven't been there. So Jake and I will just keep working on it. I know the other HVL schools, it's come up at several superintendent meetings. It sounds like it's come up at a couple AD meetings. Just wanted you to know that the conversation is going on.
We made the move to, at John Birch Park from Coke to
Okay.
Pepsi because Pepsi really courted us there and they did give us much better deals. Maybe they didn't want a long-term contract with us. I think we got 3 years. But, yeah, we found them to be extremely good to deal with. Not that Coke wasn't. It's just that these people really went after our business down there, so.
So will we look at just better pricing on beverages and?
Well, it's not that. Coke right now for an entire year we might make $3,000, and that's kind of some matching funds with Econo, and you've got to kind of do all these. Econo's our big one.
Yeah, in the Beacon last week, 2 weeks ago, there's a picture of our high school athletes. Every Powerade that's sold or Coke product that's sold, they do kick back to the school a little bit. But I do know that number this year was our second highest we've received, and one of the schools that's with Pepsi was lower than what they get annually. So
Just looking at every option for revenue.
I found it interesting during that boys basketball tournament when you had the game that went into 4 overtimes or something, and then they were talking about the shot clock and instituting that at the high school level, but they were commenting about how much it would cost each school to actually purchase the equipment to be able to have shot clocks running at the end. I mean, it was like $10,000 a school or something, $15,000, and sat there and went, really, for 2 clocks that count down from 35? One on each end of the court is 15 grand?
Someone to operate it too.
Well, yeah, I understand it, but I just,
Just be thankful we don't have an ice rink.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's something.
Oh, glad I'm not a district that has to deal with that mess.
yeah.
Okay, moving down to item 8, discussion of 6th graders playing in junior high activities. Jake, this
You know, one of our coaches brought up this issue, and Beth and I have talked about it a couple of times, but some coaches feel that maybe that having the opportunity to play the individual sports right now, the kids can play tennis, cross country, wrestle, track, and golf, may put the team sports at a disadvantage. They might have an opportunity to play tennis as a 6th grader and then never go play volleyball or whatever it is. I actually met with coaches last Friday, and actually their consensus is they like it. They like that those kids can play as 6th graders. All coaches, they all agreed, but they did recommend that they would like to see that to have the opportunity to play on the team sports as well on an as needed basis. So a couple of our junior high teams, girls basketball, girls softball, for example, we've had one junior high team, a mix of 7th and 8th graders, for as long as I can remember, because we don't have enough girls to fill 2 teams. Using 6th graders, we maybe would be able to fill 2 teams. That was their recommendation, and they wanted me to share that with you guys. It would be hard to monitor. I think you'd have to take every 6th grader. You couldn't pick and choose because that's against everything we talked about in the handbook. Then all of a sudden, do you have too many kids on a junior high team, or when is it needed? Is it needed when you don't have enough to fill a squad? Is it not enough to, have 3 reserves on each team, or what is it? So there's a lot of questions if you're going to allow that, but I do see some benefit to let some 6th graders play to fill out a roster, a junior high roster, but lots of questions with that too.
How would you implement it without being discriminating on certain players then?
I think you'd have to allow every 6th grader who wanted to.
Well, that comes back to you again then, doesn't it? 6 play.
principals, what input do you have, if any?
Well, for me, I like the fact that having 6th grade participate gets them involved in the school, because, since when they came up here, they have their own schedule, they kind of run their own deal. They're here, but they're not really a part of this building. And this has been one of the things that has really got kids integrated with everybody else. So I've liked the fact that they've done the individual sports. And I know that when we looked at this a few years ago at adding the 6th grade sports, we stayed away from team sports because we didn't want to trample on youth athletics' toes in that. I don't know. I have a hard time agreeing with some of our coaches who believe that a kid going out for an individual sport in 6th grade is going to keep them from going out for a team sport in 7th and 8th grade also. I think that, that's one of those deals that'd be hard to gather a whole lot of data on whether that is actually impacting that or not. But I'm all for whatever gets kids active in the school. Active kids are better students, are healthier students, are just more well-rounded, and being a part of the school culture keeps kids out of trouble. So I'm all for getting them to participate in whatever we have to offer. We've got 6th graders who are competing in speech. They're in our plays and our musicals. Heck, we might even had a 6th grade kid out for debate here in the last couple of years. We've got all of those kinds of things like Math League. Sports is the next kind of logical step in that. I know that there are some issues with the high school league with 6th grade kids competing in team sports because of the way the high school league is set up. And I think that, we probably have to have a conversation with youth athletics as to get their thoughts on that. Just because a kid was on a school team as a 6th grader doesn't preclude them from being a part of youth athletics also. But we'd have to be careful that, our scheduling doesn't overlap too much and that kind of stuff. And again, we couldn't pick and choose. If we were to open this up to 6th grade, it would need to be opened up to all 6th grade students. So.
Right now, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't youth athletics have basically all the programs that the school has now? So if they can't play like football, they can play youth football or baseball in the team sports now, right?
pretty much youth athletics. CFYA doesn't necessarily run all those leagues, but there's opportunities. Parent-led teams, community ed runs baseball, stuff like that. So, yeah, they have opportunities.
Question is, not that it makes a difference, how many other schools in our district have the sixth grade play?
You know, I haven't looked into that. I do know just from my history coaching junior high sports, Hayfield had sixth graders playing baseball one year. I don't know. I can check into that, but I don't know offhand.
All of them have sixth grade playing individuals. You mean team sports?
Team sports, yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Is there any concern about size, sixth grader versus an eighth grader? I mean, that's the only integration really is sixth grade on a team.
Well, I think the hope is that you'll have a team of sixth and seventh graders, and then a team of seventh and eighth graders if needed. You know, so you won't ever have a sixth grader and an eighth grader on the same team. Kind of the hope would be to avoid that, so you don't have seventh and eighth grade mixed. So you can have an eighth grade game, a seventh grade game, but you just might slide players back and forth, but never two levels.
So you could have a sixth grader playing eighth grade.
No, I think it would just be sixth grader on seventh grade, and then maybe a seventh grader on an eighth grade team just to balance the team. So, if needed.
Would there ever be situations where sixth grader comes in, so then they move a seventh grader up, they move an eighth grader up, and before long you start bumping seniors?
Could be. I know that. I think that was some resistance on the original agreement when it was only individual sports. Is what are you going to tell a parent when the sixth grader is playing over your seventh grader? You know.
So is the main driving force just because we can't fill these teams?
Yeah, that was their recommendation. They would, you know, the baseball coach said a couple years ago I could have used a couple sixth graders. Well, we wouldn't give them a couple sixth graders. You'd have to open it to everybody, but just to fill out a team, to at least have a bench or to, like I said, as long as I can remember, there's been one junior high softball team and one junior high girls basketball team. And hopefully it could get two teams and more playing time.
Derek, this doesn't directly affect you at all, but you're a sports guy, so you have some opinion on this.
You know, I'm listening to the conversation, and I don't really have much of an opinion. I see both sides. You know, I'm more so on you know what Tim said, and involved kids are kids that are away from doing other things, getting in trouble, those types of things. I think being part of a team is something that everyone should be a part of, you know, outside of being in school and those types of things. But, you know, including sixth grade in this is, I think it's a tough thing, because then all of a sudden you do get the bumping, you do have, there can't be a limit, they can't pick and choose, and then all of a sudden you've got some other issues that happen, and I think some eighth grade parents might be upset with certain playing time issues, but yeah, I don't have too much of an opinion on this.
John. Yep. You know, you talk about doing it for all. I think, like, for my program, I would need another coach. I have 17 seventh graders right now. There's 26 sixth graders. I couldn't absorb all that, whereas the girls program would benefit greatly. And it would give more playing time, I think, to all the players in that program right now. You'd have a separate junior high, seventh grade team, eighth grade team. Possibly then you have a C squad team, whereas those players may get pulled up and played at a level that may be too high for them, so they don't get to play or compete for a year or get as much playing time. I think that would benefit greatly. The girls basketball program, and probably softball the same way, where it's not just maybe fielding two junior high teams, but also those kids that got pulled up to where they're maybe not ready to play. Now they're back to where they're supposed to be, or at the level that they can compete, and they're getting the playing time that they probably deserve or should have. I think if you let it out to all the sports, Bucky and I right now are in a position where we probably don't need to have sixth graders, and hopefully that continues for my program. I like to see kids out participating and playing, but especially from coaching the girls in the past, 5 years ago, I'd like to see that program again where they have kids out playing basketball and are excited about it. So I kind of see both ways. It might be something that's difficult to manage for some coaches, especially if you're having to move kids around. Those are tough decisions to make when you're moving kids around, because you or the playing time or the ability is ready for a person to compete at different levels.
Could we do it for teams as needed?
That's kind of their idea, as needed to fill out a team.
So like basketball wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't need it.
Baseball might.
If they
need.
But we'd have to determine what does as needed mean. Does it mean to fill out a starting five, or a starting 5 plus 2 stars or something?
I guess I'd like to see more detail to to be considered. I mean, just to say all sixth graders weren't as needed, but if we were to outline this better, as far as the integration of the kids, how they would, where they would, limitations maybe on this as well, so that there's a little bit more comfort level maybe with the younger kids, even with the eighth grade, seventh grade, how that all is gonna work. You know, are you gonna bump a sixth grade up, how far? You get a super starter, they go up to compete at an eighth grade team. You know what I mean? Or do you, this is as far as you're gonna go until you're in seventh grade? I guess more of the detail would be interesting to see how that would work logistically.
We're on the baseline of discussion though, too. of it.
Yeah, and like girls basketball, it wouldn't have made a difference. I think there's one girl in sixth grade who wants to play basketball, so I went to fill out the team in that one. Whereas, thanks for only speaking
They're all
because my
dancing.
daughter's there. I have a bunch of sixth graders that would want to be playing. Or at least
Ryan,
one.
you're a listener, but you're also a student. You got anything here for us?
You know, I really don't have an opinion, I guess, as well, like some other people over there. But you know, it's kind of it really depends what the sport is. I guess that's what I've been hearing. It depends on how many kids are interested for a particular sport, like basketball. Like Coach Davison said, probably doesn't need that. Like Rob said, probably more detail, more of an outline to see how it's really going to affect all sports, I guess.
So we'll just keep this on our table.
If
and
you want me
just
to- if you want me to put together some sort of, this is how we can do it, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move down to reports. Board members, anyone have anything for the cause?
Was it this last week about the bullying program coming through? Bullying policy that's coming up to us over here. There was a meeting, I think, Lake City?
For the actual legislation? Yes, I've been at the Capitol twice, and we're working diligently on it. They've got a lot of amendments that have come through on it. We're just working really hard with our legislators to make sure that parts of it don't get snuck back in, especially, having principals that have to report everything to MDE. It's a lot of extra paperwork, and of course, this is kind of one of those unfunded things again, too. So the last thing I saw today, and I sent you some snippets of it today, it looks like it's calmed down quite a bit, and they'll have a final product out pretty soon.
Cool.
So.
Okay, anyone else? Ryan, student
Alright.
report.
So here's what's been going on in the school lately. Today we got out at noon. It's it's my understanding, I guess, that was a makeup day for one of our days off. So that served that purpose. The band left this past Saturday for their band trip down in Colorado, and they will be returning home on Wednesday. The end of the quarter was last Friday, or today, I really don't. Was it today?
We'll
or-
go with last Friday.
Last Friday, all right. Ended last Friday, so new quarter started today. We have written down here 67 days left of school. For seniors
Typical
anyway.
senior.
For seniors anyway, I'm not counting the days or anything. Softball had 3 scrimmages this past Saturday, and they won all 3 of them. Speech also had a tournament this past Saturday here at school, and I have that there were 495 initial entries, and we needed to use both the elementary school and the high school, so it was a very large tournament by our standards. Subsections for speech is this weekend, and that will also be here at Cannon. Track had an indoor meet in Rochester last week, I think, Wednesday or Thursday, I believe. And then softball is supposed to start this Friday at home. Rescheduled already? Okay. Yeah.
Here we go.
And golf, unless that's been rescheduled April 3rd.
So far,
So far, so good? Okay. All right, that's all I got. Oh, and I do want to add one more thing. This Thursday, the student council is putting on its second annual. We call it Girl Talk. Lauren Lisi is
So cool.
coordinating, like she did last year. Basically, what it is, we get the we get the middle school girls involved with the girls on the student council, and basically they spend the morning listening to their stories and their how they made it through high school, and they address the concept of bullying and harassment and what the real definitions of those are. And then we're also getting the middle school guys involved as well. There's a police officer coming in to talk to them about bullying as well. And then Rob Wishard told me prom will be coming up May 3rd. May 3rd. Okay, that's a Saturday. So that's all I got.
It's been busy.
Just one little quick thing to add to that. We had 5 HVL schools here on Saturday using our indoor track because they don't have tracks they can get access to. Brett Zimmerman was real excited. Castle Manorville brought 3 bus loads up here to use our field house because they've got the pole vault and a lot of those field things that they can't have access to. So word's kind of getting out that we've got a pretty nice facility to rent and use, and so I was really excited to hear that. I guess I didn't realize until I talked to Coach Zimmerman how many kids were up here using our
Is that
field
rented
house.
by the hour or by the student?
Yeah, by the school. We don't charge them a whole lot, but I think it's more about
Bragging rights.
bragging rights. Thanks.
So, no other reports. We had them last time out, so we're.
Yep.
Can I just publicly acknowledge one thing? Stephanie Fox organized a job fair for our high school students that was held this last Wednesday during lunches. We typically have, companies that are looking for summer workers who will contact us and want us to put up flyers and stuff like that. And Stephanie usually fields those calls, and she had enough of them that she thought it would be a good idea to actually have those people come in and meet with our kids during lunch. It was very, very successful.
Yes.
I think we had 5 different groups that were in, and she's already been contacted about from another company that would like to come in and do that again next year. So, she told me about it, and I said, awesome, go for it. So Stephanie did a great job of organizing that, and it was very successful, and I think that all those companies walked away very happy with what they received from that. So
Those kids are going to learn real quick what detasseling corn is all about.
yes, they are.
I tried telling them, but
Yeah. So anyway, I'd like to just give a kudos to Stephanie for saying that.
Congratulations to Steph for coordinating that.
Talked to her this week, and she's loving it down there at the deal. She goes, I kicked and fought, and I'll tell you, I was wrong.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
blended in with the district
Yeah.
office really well.
So, upcoming meetings, our regular board meeting scheduled for April 14th. And among the topics we have up here is the ramp up to readiness presentation.
We've got presenters all the way through May for you. I thought it's nice to have a presenter that's relevant and educates the board, and I think it's a nice way to start off our meetings. So I've got them booked out. A little taste of everything for you.
And of course, anyone else who has anything for the cause for the upcoming meeting, just contact Beth or Lori and we'll get it put on. Okay, public forum. As a rule, we allow 4 minutes for anyone who wishes to speak to the board about any particular topic. Okay? I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Rob, quickly seconded by Brenda. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
Oh, you run a good meeting, Bob. Look at that.
Some more than others.
Must be taken after Pat. He still holds the record. I remember that one.
No. Happy Banks has work.
Well,
We had to
how is
come
that
in
even
for one
possible?
item in the middle of the summer when Bob was fishing.